The poor are unlucky, not bad. The poverty problem. Most sources of poverty are outside a person's control. The poor have no private property. In many countries education must be paid for, and the poor cannot afford it. This leads to poor job prospects and bad health. The poor are unlucky, not bad. Focus, society and the economy. Key thinkers: John Stuart Mill, Amartya Sen. Before 1879, U.S. economist Henry George publishes Progress and Poverty, a huge bestseller that called for a land tax to alleviate poverty. 1890s Charles Booth and C. Bomb Rowntree conduct poverty surveys in the UK. After 1958, U.S. economist John Kenneth Galbraith draws attention to poverty in his book The Affluent Society. 1973 Indian economist Amartya Sen proposes a new poverty index. 2012 The World Bank defines extreme poverty as an income of less than $1 a day. In high-income countries, governments often account for 30–50% of spending in the economy. About half of this consists of social transfers, or welfare spending. In historical terms, such high social spending is a comparatively new development, dating from the 1930s and 40s. Welfare spending has a long history. In the 16th century, England's poor law assumed there were three types of poor people: the deserving poor, the old, the young, and the sick. The deserving unemployed, those willing to work but unable to find employment, and the undeserving poor, beggars. The first two groups were given food and money donated by local people, but the third group were treated as criminals. With industrialization, the view of the poor changed, and by the 18th century many people thought that the poor had only themselves to blame. British economists David Ricardo and Thomas Malthus asked for the poor laws to be abolished, claiming handouts weakened the incentive to work. This view became widely held, but there was an alternative view given by British philosopher John Stuart Mill in 1848. Mill argued that economics is concerned only with production. The distribution of wealth is society's choice. In his work on politics, he usually argued in favor of limiting the role of government, but in this case he said the state should step in to help those unable to help themselves and provide citizens with the education they needed to earn a living. As the right to vote broadened in European countries during the 19th and 20th centuries, it was accompanied by greater demands for social spending and the redistribution of wealth. Elaborate public health and education systems developed with those for welfare benefits. 21st century poverty. After 1800, a great divergence of wealth developed between Europe and North America, and the rest of the world. Poverty has been a persistent problem in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. Economists have emphasized the role of health, education, and transportation, as well as direct support to the poor in reducing poverty. Indian economist Amartya Sen argued that poverty is about limitations in capabilities and functionings, the things people can succeed in doing or being, not the goods or services they have access to. This idea is reflected in continuing questions about whether the poverty line is absolute, meeting basic requirements, or relative, such as a percentage of the average income. Development Goals. In September 2000, 189 world leaders from the United Nations signed 8 Millennium Development Goals to be met by 2015. The goals are: end poverty and hunger, universal education, gender equality, child health, maternal health, combat diseases, HIV/AIDS, TB, and malaria, environmental sustainability, and global partnership. One target was to halve the number of people in extreme poverty by 2015. According to the World Bank, the percentage of people in developing countries who earn less than $1 a day fell from 30.8% in 1990 to 14% in 2008, after adjustments were made for the different prices of goods in the different countries. This was largely thanks to progress in East Asia. However, $1 is a desperate level. The average poverty line used by developing countries is $2 a day. In 2008, 2.5 billion people in developing countries, 43% had incomes below this line.